Welcome everybody to a special edition here of TEW 2020, as yes, it's still a WCW 2004 save, but as is tradition, I take control of the WWE for their two big shows, mainly because, again, TEW 20 is a great game, EA booking is great for a game, but it's still EA booking, and if I let it just do what it do, I would just roll over the WWF eventually, and more importantly, I like a world that makes sense, and the world would quickly make no sense. They'd still be, booking, you know, the same, over people over and over, and they would never create new stars. Sometimes they would by accident, but yeah, for the most part, for the most part, I like letting the AI do what it does and decides whatever weird booking it wants to do as far as titles and everything. But I want like a little bit of sort of like structuring things, which is why I do this. But anyway, we are at WWE Summerslam, live from Toronto, Ontario, from the Air Canada Centre, in the end of August 2004. And as it was in real life, it was basically sold out with 19,000 people plus. And we start out basically with a video going over the big matches, which include Randy Orton facing Triple H, Brock Lesnar facing The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels facing Chris Jericho, and a triple threat match for the WWE Championship involving Big Show, Edge, and Kurt Angle. And this opening video gets an 85, which if we do this real quick, as you can see here, like nothing special about this, just opening video as we move forward with our opening video for the first match of the night. And that match is a triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship between the defending champion Val Venis, William Regal, and John Bradshaw Layfield. The video for that gets 66. Or, no, sorry. JBL's interest with the limo gets a 66 for that. But I'll go over basically how, at least how I imagine the match being set up. So, way back at WrestleMania, Val Venis won the tag titles with his partner, Rikishi, also known as Bob McGround. He was then added to the IC title cage match at Judgment Day, where he won that title, so he became wearing two belts. But they also lost tag belts shortly after that. But he's continued to defend the IC title, and part of that has been fighting men such as Bradshaw, who of course turned heel at WrestleMania, and ended the Acolytes. Basically turned on his partner, and just basically he's been his real life JBL character since then. He got the IC title shot at King of the Ring versus Venis, but it's still been fighting. But part of that fighting has led him into feuding with Regal, who's been a upper mid card main event guy for most of his last couple of months here, including having the fun little babyface trio of him, Scott Hall, and Stephen Richards as Tea Time, but eventually that ended, and so, he's been feuding with JBL since then. You can imagine, JBL saying JBL things about America, with Regal doing face things about Britain, and Regal got a big win at Vengeance over JBL, but JBL attacked him, and that has led to both men being entered into the IC title match here at SummerSlam. So JBL does a big entrance limo, which gets a 66, like I said. And then it's on to the actual match. So this match is what you sort of expect. It's Regal doing his technical holds and doing a little bit of brawl with JBL. Venis, basically, despite being a babyface, trying to stay out of things and letting the two guys who currently hate each other just fight each other. But eventually, Val Venis does go after Regal, and they fight a little, but Regal, hits a big suplexes. It looks like he's going to lock in the hold, but when basically Regal gets knocked out of the ring by JBL throws him to the outside. Venis goes after Layfield, but Layfield hits the big clothesline from hell and picks up Val Venis. Powerbomb 1, 2, 3, and John Bradshaw Layfield is your new Intercontinental Champion. So yeah, like you can see here, JBL defeats Regal and Venis in 8:52 when Layfield pins Venis with the powerbomb. This gets a 73 overall. Regal gets an 88 because he's Regal in 2004 without many of the issues that plagued in real life. JBL gets a 72, which is solid, and the former champion gets a 73, which is unfortunate, but he can now go back to the mid card and see what he does there. And post match, JBL celebrates with a title, getting back to his limo to the boos of the crowd, which gets a 68. So our next, basically recap video is about our next match, which is CM Punk versus Rhino, which, again, CM Punk got signed to the WWE a while back in-game, was in the, rose quickly up in HWA, then OVW's been OVW champion for a while, so I brought him back, I brought him onto the main roster in July, had him actually beat Rhino, and then basically that's been the feud. But Rhino himself, they shockingly won the tag titles at at No Way Out, then lost him at Mania. Punk defeated Rhino, and that he's been having an extreme open challenge, defeating former random ECW guys quickly. Of course, that's led to Rhino and Dreamer, the Outcast team, feuding with them. And now it's CM Punk trying to prove, that his straight edge ways is better than the degenerate vile ways of the extremist who have tried to destroy wrestling with their views in a big match versus a former ECW champion in Rhino. And just for a note, the video, the hype video itself got a 23, which because Punk isn't that over yet, which is unfortunate, but what can you do? But in the actual match, it about had decent wrestling, but didn't have much heat. Basically, Rhino does his Rhino stuff, like he uses his powers, but Punk, fights, he claws, he does some cheating. Dreamer is outside and he goes after Dreamer, but Rhino, does some power stuff to get involved. But in the end, Rhino goes for a big gore near the end, but Punk gets out of the way and basically crucifixes Rhino and then uses the foot on the ropes in a hypocritical way because he's, a heel to get the 1-2-3 victory over Rhino in his WWE pay-per-view debut here at SummerSlam 2004. So like I said here, Punk, about that decent wrestling, didn't have much heat. CM Punk defeats Rhino in 10-4 by pinfall. This gets a 61 overall. Punk gets a 48, and Rhino gets a 62. Fun stuff. And post-match, Punk celebrates to the some boos of the crowd, and a 47. Then it's on to our next recap video for the next match, which is our triple threat tag team match for the tag titles involving Quick and Sexy, the current tag team champions, meeting Saturn and Snow, and the new team of Christian York and Lance Cade, recently up for developmental for the tag titles. So basically what happens here is, what has happened so far is, of course, the Quick and Sexy, which is K Quick and Grandmaster Sexy, lost the four-way title match, Mania title match, became close with Matt Hardy along with their manager Jacqueline, earn a title shot and win the titles at Vengeance. And then, as far as the rest of the members of the team, members of the match, the Radicals ended when Dean Malenko left the company, of course. But Alston and Sander, both being former ECW guys, have gotten friendly and started teaming up together, and they beat Mattitude, which is the stable of Matt Hardy, K Quick, and Grandmaster Sexy, to earn a title shot. And then the Young Guns of Lance Cade and Christian York, who were longtime tag champs in OVW, came up to the main roster and basically convinced Vince McMahon in a basically random SmackDown segment or Raw segment, I forget where I booked it, to add them to the three-way. And basically, sort of Vince looking towards his future, gives them a title shot here against, basically, I don't say two random teams because Quick and Sexy have been actually teaming semi-regularly for, I think, over a year now. But Saturn and Snow is just in the extra tag team. Again, it's a W tag team division in the mid-2000s after Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and everybody else is gone, and we aren't quite to the SmackDown 6 era, and that might not exist. But regardless, the tag title video gets a 42, and then the match itself is in a poor match. What happens here is, back and forth match. But eventually, Terry comes down the ringside, and she's watching the match as the entrance put over. Terry has had a relationship with Saturn before. She's had, been involved in, multiple things as far as the WWF and WWE, and it'll be interesting to see what she's actually doing. She actually, distracts all three teams at some point quickly, but in the end, it looks like Terry is going to help Saturn and Snow as she gets up to the ringside apron to say something to Al Snow. Al Snow comes over her, and then Terry low blows Al Snow, and he turns around right into a big super kick suplex combo from Lance Cade and Christian York, and 1, 2, 3, Lance Cade and Christian York win the World Tag Team titles. But yeah, as you can see here, I marked it. I been it accidentally as an elimination match. It was not. It was a typical WWF triple threat match. But yeah, in a poor match, Cade and Christian York win the titles. This gets a 64. K Quick gets a 63. Grandmaster Sexy gets a 50. Christian York gets a 41. Lance Cade gets a 50. Al Snow gets a 58. And Perry Stratton gets a 59. And Quick handle. Okay, so first Lance Cade, because he had a sort of Meg gimmick, I changed it to Cocky Cowboy, which got inadequate, same as his old one, which is unfortunate. And also, I was changing Terry's gimmick, but I guess I missed that. Oh well. And then Cade and York walk away with Terry to the boos of the crowd, which gets a 48. So basically, the gimmick here is, Terry is the advanced age of 37. I say this as I'm like 2 years older than her in real life, so that's the joke here, folks. But now she's with two young studs in the audience, Cade and Chris New York. Yes, it's basically the same angle as when she was with the Hardys for like 2 weeks back in 2001. But let's just run it back and see if it does any better for them, at least with the AI. But a huge win for Lance Cade and Chris New York as they make their debut, basically their big debut here in WWE, and win the tag team titles. Another man who's had a successful OVW run is Shelton Benjamin, and he also recently made his WWE debut, shockingly defeating Matt Hardy in his debut, and then again in a rematch on SmackDown. Matt, of course, got really upset about this, and basically this match was set up nothing fancy. Matt has done wacky Matt things because this is follow he also has his own quasi not official cult, but his own little alliance with K-Quick and Grandmaster Sexy as followers of Mattitude. But unfortunately, they lost tonight. And now also it's going to be Shelton versus Matt. And basically Matt's last chance to win over the young, dynamic rookie in Shelton Benjamin. And unfortunately for old Matt Hardy, he loses again as Shelton Benjamin basically straightforwardly defends Matt Hardy in 11:04. I'm sure these guys had a zillion matches on SmackDown during this time period. Watch one of them, watch one that goes about 10-12 minutes, and you see that match. And in that match, Shelton Benjamin gets the big win via his suplex. And 1, 2, 3. Big victory for Matt Hardy as this gets a 59 overall. Shelton gets a 47 and Matt gets a 57, which I'll show you guys here in just a moment. But a big solid win here on pay-per-view for Shelton. And like I said, Shelton gets a 47. Again, that's all through overness, and Matt Hardy gets a 57. But big win for Shelton. As you know, Hardy's been pretty successful here, especially since Jeff won. He's solidly European, he's been a solid mid-carder guy, and this is a big win for Shelton. And post-match, Shelton celebrates with cheers in the crowd, which gets a 43 again. Not quite that over yet, but they're both getting there. Him and Punk as the two main guys I've brought up recently. So this next one's going to take a little more explanation, as that's also why I said it. Yeah, anyway, it's going to take a little more long explanation as it's Christian and Devon Dudley versus the new improved Team Angle, Test and Albert. So basically, Christian and Billy Gunn, as part of Team Angle, along with the Dudleys, and of course Kurt Angle, lost the titles at No Way Out, and then they lost the rematch. But then the Dudleys got the title shot against, got their shot with the Radicals in a three-way, but then they lost as well. So Angle was upset at them all, and of course Bubba Ray Dudley also left WWF in June, and eventually Team Angle looked like Team Angle was going to fall apart, but then. As there was arguments, Test and Albert, which were also left sort of doing much of nothing after Trish Stratus left, wiped out Christian and Devon, who were sort of the men left standing, to become part of Team Angle, along with Billy Gunn, who's become sort of Kurt Angle's sycophant. And now, of course, Christian and Devon, despite not having much to do with each other, are now teaming up to get some revenge on Test and Albert. And the video to set that all up gets a 74, and then we have the actual match, which is basically a fun little match, basically just a back and forth match. But eventually, TNA have Debra at ringside with them. Who, of course, Debra was previously with the other members of Team Angle, and she gets involved. Devon, we probably get some sort of weird spot where Christian or Devon, tries to strip her, makes out with her because it's still been 2000s wrestling. But that's probably just enough of a distraction for Albert to nail Devon with his huge double choke slam name, which I'm forgetting off the top of my head. Whatever tattoo related pun they used. And then Tess also hits a big boot on Christian, knock him out of the ring. And with nowhere to go, TNA get the big victory over Christian and Devon as they continue their strong push up the card after becoming part of the new improved Team Angle. Or at least I hope it's a up the card, at least as part of the stable with Angle. We'll probably get some big matches just when the game decides to do them as part of 6-mans. Regardless, to actually go over the match itself, in a decent match, TNA defeated Christian Devon in 10:28 when Albert pinned Devon, like I said. This gets a 75, which is actually really good. Devon gets a 57, Christian gets a 79, Albert gets a 54, and Test gets a 59. So again, these guys, they've not been really pushed or used to much at all. But, I figured they didn't have much to do, so give them a shot and see what the game does with them. And then, so we're also doing some changes to their gimmicks. So first, Albert's gimmick is being changed from Man Beast to Angle's Muscle, and that got a great, which is good. And then Test's gimmick is being changed to Angle's Enforcer, which got a very good. So also having good gimmicks will probably help them get pushed by the game. And then post-match, Test, Albert, and Debra all celebrate to a 61. And a big win for Test and Albert here on SummerSlam. And then it's time for our first huge singles match. Basically, at the end of June, of course, as everybody knows, have been following this series, Scott Steiner left the WCW and quickly joined the WWF or WWE. I'm going to go back and forth what I call them because the game still doesn't change over WWE, but also I know they're WWE at this point, so who knows what I actually go with. But regardless, what actually, Steiner debuts, he made some true comments about WCW, including about his former friends. Scott, of course, shot back as Scott Hall. And yeah, basically, Hall said he was going to welcome Scott Steiner back to WCW by, kicking his ass. And Steiner, fires back that, he's become, a whiny bitch since becoming a tea drinking weirdo, along with going Regal. That sort of caused the end of tea time, at least that's what I'm saying, even though the game just sort of randomly ended it. And now Scott Hall is on his own, trying to fight Scott Steiner. So the video itself gets a 64, and the match itself goes... Okay, so basically, this is just an absolute, fight and brawl. I'm sure some chairs get involved, there's a table spot, mass destruction, just these guys just kicking the crap out of each other for 8-9 minutes. Hall does a follow-away slam, Steiner fires back with a few big suplexes, and eventually Scott Hall gets walloped with something by Steiner. Maybe a lead pipe, maybe a chair, maybe who knows what happens at ringside. But in the end, he's Scott Hall. He's Scott Steiner, a former WCW World Champion, and he's able to lock Scott Hall in the Steiner recliner and get the big victory after about 10 minutes in a pretty good match, especially for these guys doing it this time. So let's go ahead and have you guys take an actual look at the game here. Yeah, I can see in about great heat and good wrestling, Scott Steiner defeats Scott Hall and by submission with Steiner. This gets a 79, Scott Hall gets an 81, Steiner gets a 73. I had it as Mayhem, and then let's just look at the dirt sheet. Was there anything really bad? Let's see here. Odd face heel. Whoops, did I not? Oh, I might have brought in Steiner as a face, or maybe. Oh, I think Hall was turned heel by the game. Oh well, I'll figure that out. Anyway, decline physical ability, stamina inconsistency. Okay. But nothing too bad. And then post-match, Steiner keeps the hold on as this gets a 73. Fun times. And now we're really moving up to some pretty big matches. Well, okay. 5 huge main events and also a women's tag match as a breather. But what happens before that is Michael Cole is interviewing Milla Jovovich about her upcoming Resident Evil film, which again did come out in real life in a couple of weeks. And she's saying Milla Jovovich loves movies, and Michael Cole asked her, who's her favorite wrestler. She says, Big Show's so big, and Billy Gunn comes over, says, if you want to be a member of the True Gun Club here in wrestling, come hang out with me. Milla, blows him off and, says, I don't even know who you are. Billy Gunn's sad, and then we have our wacky celebrity segment for the night. So what I did again in game is I had a B-list celebrity and a major band show up. The major band will show up later, actually in a minute here. But also, I just had to find a decent movie, well, not a decent movie, but a decently big movie coming out, and someone who would actually show up at a W event in 2004, and I figured Milla Jovovich worked, and did this little fun segment, which gets an 85. So, fun stuff. And now we actually go on to our first of our big matches. So yes, the first big match is between Randy Orton and Triple H, and unlike in real life, these guys have never been partners, friends, stablemates, or anything like that. Of course, Randy Orton, since his debut here in WWF, has slowly been rising up the card, including a long IC title reign, which involved a big win at WrestleMania, but he shockingly lost the IC title but only after not knowing who his opponents would be until the night of the pay-per-view, which is sort of the way I've determined that the deal with the game randomly doing a four-way cage match with a bunch of random people and Orton dropping the title. And then, but Orton has continued, slowly rising up the ranks here, fighting, feuding, and, he's been pushed as the future of the WWF/E because, well, no John Cena, because Cena wasn't signed even to a div contract until the end of last year. So he's sort of not quite there yet. But, Orton, of course, has been pushed strongly. But Triple H, of course, at WrestleMania, had to deal with Lita being sent out of the WWF by his ex-wife, Stephanie McMahon. But, Triple H quickly got over that because he's Triple H, even though in-game they're still dating, which is going to be interesting with Lita here in WCW now. Regardless, again, it's weird in the game, like, he has hatred with every member of the McMahon family, but he's still pushed. So that's one thing I think the game is sort of like feels like, because in real life, he'd either be released or he'd be really punished, but they can't quite figure out, to do that. But regardless, his like heel anti-McMahon, anti-fan, just hating everybody character has continued. But he did, get to the finals of the King Ring where he lost to Triple H. And, Orton got called out by Triple H, saying, he wanted to work with him together, mold you and be the evolution of this business together. And it looked like Orton was going to work with him. But then, bam, RKO out of nowhere, which, of course, the gimmick here is Orton learned the RKO/Diamond Cutter from DDP. And then since they've been fighting, they, Triple H fine, I'll, beat the lesson into you. And setting up, this is, possibly a changing of the guard as Randy Orton tries to rise up to the top here in sports entertainment, taking on the Subaru assassin, the man himself, Triple H. And first, our video just setting that all up gets a 78. And then Orton comes out being played to the ring by his new music from Velvet Revolver, Slither. Go listen to that song if you want. It's a decent, good rock song, but also came out recently, and it works. Well, it doesn't work quite with Orton's current gimmick, because he's not quite, sanctioning Orton, but come on. A song called Slither, how can it not be Randy Orton's music in 2004? So he comes out to that, and Triple H comes out, and that little, segment gets an 84, and then we have the actual match. Oof, they don't click, which I'll show you guys in a second. Okay, so, that's not the end of the world. It actually kind of works with how the match I did. So this is, this is a mid-2000s Triple H match, which, it's slowly built. Triple H works the back, works the knees, works the legs, but Orton fires back. Orton, gets nailed up by the knee lift. Triple H goes the pedigree, but Orton fights out of it. Orton, hits his big snap power slam, goes for the RKO a couple times, but Triple H was always ready for it because, he's the smartest man in the business. And eventually it looks like Orton actually is, Orton hits the RKO late, but the ref is out. And of course, Triple H brings out the sledgehammer. Triple H hits the pedigree, but the referee's too late on that as well. So Orton kicks out at 2, basically almost at 3, even though, the announcers put over, Triple H had the win, even though they also say that Orton had the win earlier. So the brawl continues, but eventually Triple H is going for, Triple H is going for a pedigree of his own, but Orton fights out of it. Looks like Triple H is going for the big knee, but Orton out of nowhere, RKO, 1, 2, 3, right in the middle of the ring as he pins Triple H at SummerSlam 2004. So yeah, to show you guys the actual match, I only got a 77, but honestly, this kind of should have been the actual match of SummerSlam 2004 instead of just Orton randomly getting the title. Anyway, putting on my own fantasy booking. 77 overall, like I said. Orton gets a 74, Triple H gets an 85, and like I said, they don't click. Was there anything else that hurt it, or was it just the not clicking? Okay, chemistry. No, literally that's it. But this is Triple H, and being Triple H, he's not done. So he gets a sledgehammer again, and it looks like, Triple H is going to go after Orton again as he's recovering. But out of nowhere, it's DDP. It's DDP, who Orton's team with, who Orton had a big IC World match at WrestleMania against. He comes back and he fights off Triple H, and he throws him to the outside. And, Orton turns around, looking, almost hearing this commotion and ready for a fight, but sees his DDP. Orton celebrates, but then, bam, Diamond Cutter, and Orton out of nowhere. So yeah, DDP turns heel on Orton, and putting him heel. And so, he turned heel, which wasn't bad, but his new DD Me gimmick got a poor rating, which is not the end of the world. But again, 79 for that, as he turns heel on Randy Orton. But still, big win for Orton, and now I'll double check when we look at this everybody's overness afterwards, but he should be like a top guy now. But now, moving on. As we have a huge match between Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. How this was set up is basically, they have been top guys, especially since Triple H HBK made his return under slightly different circumstances in real life. But HBK did defeat Jericho at Judgment Day, and then at King of the Ring, they both basically screwed each other over as first HBK super kicked Jericho, allowed TEW to defeat him, and then of course Jericho came back and attacked HBK, allowing Angle to defeat HBK. And then it looked like they were going to fight, but Jericho earned the match. Basically said like he would beat Taker in the King of the Ring final, so he took on Taker at oh god, I forgot what the name of this July pay-per-view is. Having a brain fart. Vengeance, I think. Yeah, Vengeance, I think. Anyway, Jericho defeated Taker there despite HBK involvement, because Lesnar also got involved, which I'll set up for the big match later on tonight. And now it's basically devolved into sort of their real life feud a couple years after this, with Jericho saying he's the new standard bearer, he's the new GOAT, and HBK is an old man. But unfortunately, Whisper has not been actively punched by Chris Jericho, so there's no heat with that. But basically their real life, the actual feud that happened, transposed to 2004 with maybe a little bit more of Triple H, HBK being a dick, and Chris Jericho being just an immense heel. Then going on to the actual match, and that feud got an 87, and why didn't this get, hold on, because this was not, okay, ouch. Okay, interesting. Sorry, I know you guys can't see it, but this is something where I might have to go back to the booking screen in a second. So actually what I'll do is I'll fix it for you guys. Yeah, okay, that's what I'll do. Anyway, sorry, I'm just kind of interesting, very interesting. Yeah, I'm just double checking a couple things here. Sorry. It's the exact sort of insanely great match you expect from Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels in 2004. Like, again, just look at any of their real life matches, as you can imagine. But in the end, like in this one, Chris Jericho crawls, does everything dirty, and in the end, barely is able to get out of the way of a second super kick, nail Jericho from behind, nail Triple H basically with an enziguri, and then roll him and cradle him up, hold the tights, and barely get the 3 count before the ref, before Michaels kicks out, and he celebrates like a man who just, won, like a man who just friggin' won the lottery. And then I'll show you guys what actually happened here, is why I was actually kind of confused here in just a moment. So yeah, as it says here, in about the sensational wrestling fantastic feud, Chris Jericho defeats Shawn Michaels in 1940 by pinfall. This gets an 84 only, however, even though Jericho gets a 94, Michaels gets a 98. As it says here, the announcement this Taz was weak and Paul Heyman was pretty weak, as match deserved better commentary. Jeez, words are hard. And yeah, so that's unfortunate. So yeah, I'm actually going to figure things out here in just a moment. So here, we'll do this real quick. Jericho's new gimmick, Best in the World, got a grade, so that's nice. So I'll be right back after I double check a couple things, because again, I want to do the best thing possible for the game here. So I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. Just to fix a couple things as far as announcers. Anyway, after the match, of course, Jericho celebrates like he, just like I said, won the Olympics, and is just screaming about it. This proves he's the best in the world and the greatest of all time. As he goes to the back, Will Michaels is disappointed, as that gets a 70. And now we're on to our next match of the evening. So this is what we call in the business the concession match, as we have a sleepover pillow fight with Jackie Gayda and Elizabeth Love, also better known as Lizzie Valentine, versus Oops, and I put Elizabeth Love there twice. That's unfortunate. Jillian Hall and Cherry Slice, also known as Cherry Navid, who is the manager of Deuce Nominal, but there's no Deuce Nominal here, so she's just a random 50s throwback diva. And there's no setup for this match. It's just basically I put all the women in eye candy segments for a couple weeks, and there you go. So the video set it up gets a 44, and then and about had decent reaction. Now this crowd heat, we have a 6-minute what is it? Yeah, eye candy match between these two teams. And in the end, the heels of Cherry Slice and Jillian Hall defeat Elizabeth Love and Jackie Gayda in 6:30. It says a pin, but I imagine like the idea here is if they sleepover pillow fights, you have to hit your opponents with the pillow fight, and then strip them of their sleepover clothes to reveal their raw panties, because this is mid 2000s WWE. And of course, since we stole all their good wrestlers outside Mount Holly, they're really giving up on wrestling. And so just a big win, well, a win for the heels here over the big faces. And there you go. And yeah, as you can see, and yeah, I don't know, Cherry and Jillian with the heels, Elizabeth Love and Jackie with faces. This gets a 60 overall. Jackie gets 69, Love gets a 48, Jillian Hall gets a 55, and Cherry Slice gets a 50. Again, everybody here was rated on eye candy, basically. And post-match, Love and Gayda get the revenge by stripping Jillian Hall and Cherry Slice, because, again, look at any WWE pay-per-view from the time. Shockingly, basically all the women end up in their bra and panties, because again, this is in 2000s WWE, and this gets a 44. And move forward with our final big, huge 3 matches of the evening. So, next match is The Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, as we have a video which gets an 87. And basically, the setup for this is Lesnar, at WrestleMania was on top of the world. He had defeated Steve Austin in the main event of WrestleMania to stay the world champion. But then, shockingly, he lost the title to the Big Show at Backlash, and then lost a cage match in Vengeance. He wants to get back to the title shot, so he was going into the King of the Ring, but he was injured in a match versus The Undertaker, and of course The Undertaker ended up King of the Ring. So Lesnar got involved at, I keep saying Vengeance. Yeah, it's terrible. I forget the way it's Backlash, then Vengeance. I forget what the July paper. Anyway, at the July pay-per-view, right, Judgment Day, right? Okay. So what happens is, Judgment Day. Hold on. Now I'm okay. So yeah. So right, because Lesnar's actually injured this time around. So Lesnar gets his rematch at Vengeance, which is May, right? Man, now I want to go back and actually double check. Regardless, what happens here is Lesnar gets his rematch in a cage. He loses that. He goes off to the King of the Ring to lose it, but Taker beats him, and he gets injured basically for a month. And they've been fighting since he got back, including Lesnar getting involved in the Jericho Taker match at the last pay-per-view before this one in July. And now it's 2 big, huge stars, 2 huge, big guys, of course. Taker, who has come back as Old School Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar, who's just been as hot as hell guy, who I basically helped I pushed the moon a long title reign, and sort of it's basically, it's basically the same Brock Lesnar push that he got in real life. Except he's not running off to the NFL in this version of reality, probably. So we have the actual match. Which, okay, so match was still hurt by needing better commentary, but it's not too bad color commentators on the match, so it doesn't hurt it twice. So I just took Paul Heyman off it and kept Taz on. But anyway, this is the exact go watch any Taker Lesnar match from the time period, and it's just a fight. It's suplexes, it's slams, it's dirty, it's fighting, it's crawling, it's punching, it's stiff shots, it's MMA BS. By the end, Lesnar goes for the F5. Taker gets out of it, picks him up, tombstone, 1, 2, 3. Taker proves King of the Ring is not a fluke, as he gets a huge win over Brock Lesnar here at SummerSlam. So this gets an 89 overall, and I'll go over things further here in just a moment. So yeah, as you can see here, Taker, it says what you were saying, but come on, it was a tombstone. It gets an 89, which is a really good match overall. Lesnar gets a 96 because he's Brock fucking Lesnar in 2004. The Undertaker gets a 91, and yeah, the only bad thing was the color commentator. They did a good job of spilling the match. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, Brock's Brock, so yeah. But Brock rolls to the outside, gets to the back. So he gets back, and Undertaker is doing his Undertaker thing after the match. When the lights go out, and then out comes Vampiro with Ariel Belmont and Leviathan, and they just destroy the Undertaker. Just completely wipe him out, destroy him, wreck him, do everything you imagine to him. As youngsters put over that Vampiro has been throwing cryptic threats the last couple weeks since he made his debut here in the WWF. And now he seems to be aligned with the Leviathan, who made his own attacks at Kane, Undertaker's brother, over the past year or so. Again, I'm trying to deal with the fact that he's not booking Leviathan well, but, what can you do? So, here you go. Taker celebrates. Vampiro and Leviathan destroy him. This gets a 78, as there we go. So, yeah. Basically, Leviathan, Vampiro, and Ariel Belmont will all be in a, little mini stable, and we'll see how the game books it from there. Hopefully well, but if I know the game, hopefully, maybe not. We'll just see what happens here. But yeah, big statement here as, Vampiro on pay-per-view just destroys The Undertaker with Leviathan and Ariel Belmont helping him. Fun times. So this is, of course, a little bit ironic considering what Steve Austin actually did in real life, but in-game, of course, as you guys know, if you've been following things, if Austin, never retired, so he's just been sort of around doing Steve Austin things, So, I gave things basically a year past his real sell-by date, considering, in real life, he literally had a heart attack and might have, paralyzed himself. But in the game, he's been slowly losing, his health in, I think it's his legs. I'd have to double check. Regardless, so basically, what happens here is, he lost versus Lesnar at Mania, and then he disappears for a few months. He comes back and basically puts over the fact that, after having a few matches that the doctors told him he can't face men like Lesnar anymore, but he's not going to go out on his back like that, and he wants another match against any man, Lesnar, Taker, even The Rock. But eventually, after, a couple weeks of this, and Austin being told, he can't just get a random shot versus The Rock. Or he also says, he wants a title shot for his last match, but Big Show basically says, I don't want to, choke slam you into permanent retirement. Because Big Show is, sort of our underdog giant babyface. But eventually, on a random, Raw or SmackDown, Mick Foley comes out and says, he's been watching Austin the past couple weeks, and it makes him sad because he knows Austin wants to go out being Steve Austin. And Foley knows how that feels. So, considering their history and everything they've done together, if Austin wants one last match at SummerSlam, then Mick Foley is ready to be the man that brings the old Steve Austin out. So they've been sort of having a friendly, sort of back and forth since then. Eventually brought in the fights. This is your life, Steve, Steve Weiser stuff, and sort of Austin Foley things you can imagine. Again, Foley's been a occasional wrestler, basically in the game. He appeared at a random Royal Rumble. He had one match. Oh God, I forgot versus who. And then he also lost Triple H at Survivor Series, which sort of makes sense in the build up to WrestleMania that Mick Foley would come in and sort of help the fans. Regardless, now Austin and Foley one more time for all time at SummerSlam here in Toronto. Oof. And, oh, shit. Okay. I forgot to turn off Burnout. I want to turn off Burnout because there wouldn't be Burnout at a 4-hour SummerSlam in 2004. Oh, well. Shit happens. This is just a complete wild brawl. Imagine an Austin... honestly, this is kind of just the Austin Owens match, except maybe a little more, because T. Austin 2004 could do a little more than... this version of Austin could do a little more 2004 than Austin 2022, but it's a brawl outside. There's some suplexes, there's some punches, but eventually Austin hits Foley with a stunner, 1, 2, 3, right in the ring, as the crowd, pops like mad. 1, 2, 3, Austin, huge victory for Stone Cold in what will be likely his last match here in the WWF. So then I'll show you guys what's going on and why I'm kind of disappointed. So yeah, only get to 79 unfortunately, as Austin defeats Foley, like I said, in 11:55 with the stunner. Austin got a 98 because he's, despite his health in the game, he's still, well, at least one part of his health, he's just still insanely good. Foley gets an 85 because he's still Foley. And yeah, unfortunately, the bad things were basically, crowd starting to get burnt out, and odd face heel combination. So, and penalized for standing a little bit for Foley. So again, not the end of the world, and by him turning Foley's gimmick to Hardcore Religion, which got a 4, oh well. And then post-match, it's just Austin and Foley having a beer bash, and Foley getting, stunnered, Austin doing a, bunch of, beers, and then eventually, walking away to the cheers of the crowd, which gets a 95, and get the crowd hotter before our huge main event tonight, the big triple threat three-way for the World Championship, which we'll go over here in just a moment. Yes, it's now time for our main event of the Big Show versus Edge versus Kurt Angle for the world title. And, as far as, Big Show goes, of course, he was part of the big 6-person tag at WrestleMania, which, sent Lita out of the WWF and gave the McMahons a big victory over, Triple H and Shane. And then, he was named #1 contender after that for helping McMahons. And it's sort of a huge shocker. He defeated Brock for the WWE Championship at Backlash. And since despite being, the Big Show in 2004, he's been sort of an underdog and sort of like, even though he's been a babyface, it sort of assumed like, somebody would take the title off of him fairly quickly, whether it's Brock, somebody like Angle, or, somebody or like Austin once he came back. But shows, just kept the world title. He defeated Lesnar in a rematch. And after defeating that Lesnar in a rematch, then who was taken on next. And basically, to go over the other two men, like, what happened here is, Edge defeated Taker at Mania, and then Pig basically, to a big win, and then pinned Big Show at a random Raw as part of a tag match from the title shot in the tag match, and then a week after, Angle also did it, so then that sort of, which person actually deserved the title. Eventually we decided both men would get the title shot, so even though they're both heels, they both won the title, which sort of set, that's the dynamic of Big Show's the big giant underdog babyface against two conniving, technical heels who both want the title themselves. And the video to get everything set up, that video gets an 85. Everybody's entrances get 100. Hurrah. I did change Edge's gimmick because it was basically adequate to something great, which also helped the match as their entrances all get 100. And then it's time for the actual match, which gets oof. God. Why? I mean, I get what's actually happening here is I'm coming in the last couple weeks. I'm not like basically doing enough segments to get the heat out. And also, Jesus, the crowd is really burnt out. Okay. I think I really need to remember to turn off burnout the last time I take over. Because again, I'm okay with dealing with burnout myself in the game just because I'm doing with the game. But I don't want to like screw up what I'm doing with the game. But regardless, I mean, it's the match you'd imagine between Big Show, Kurt Angle, and Edge in 2004. Edge and Angle both take their shots. Like, of course, Angle hits Show with a little big slam. Edge hits him with a big spear. Both men getting each other's way to try to get pinfall victory. That allows Big Show to come back, throw both men over the top rope, do his own brawling, hit a big punch on one of them, but then the other one gets involved to break it up. But eventually, I would imagine the finish being is Edge and Angle start fighting, of course, but that allows Big Show to recover, grab him, double choke slam on both men, and then 1, 2, 3, Big Show pins, well, it says Kurt Angle here, with the choke slam to make defense number 3 of his world championship, and a big win for him. And you can see why I'm slightly disappointed by the rating here in just a moment. So yeah, this only gets an 82, even though Edge got a 95, Regal got a 90, and Kurt Angle got a 96. And the only downsides was a slight inconsistency, which was in their like actual ratings, and then burned out crowd. So probably would have been like a 91 or 92 without that. So, again, I can complain too much, but, I really should have remembered to turn off burnout. But yeah, post-match, Big Show leaves the crowd, and, Angle and Edge are both upset each other. Eventually, because again, also, Edge probably would have got a huge babyface pop because this is Edge in Canada. And in the end, Edge spears Angle and walks away as he gets a 95, as he walks away like a huge babyface, at least for the night here in Canada. And overall, the show itself gets a 93. Okay. So, despite sort of the wackiness with the ratings, this extra stuff I added probably helped things out. And so I'll do a big speech, and let me see here. Who should I do? Let's see here. Who did better than I? Well, actually, okay. Who was unhappy about doing jobs? So I'll give, okay, so Brock. It's a great performance gimmick. And honestly, Edge and Kurt, you also get it. So there we go, there you go. And I'll be back in just a moment to go over the overness and such and see if there are any big changes and deal with that other stuff, and then that'll be it. So be back with that in just a moment. All right, a few things. You see G1 there, but I'll go over that. I'll go over that in the regular video. But so despite me being worried, SummerSlam still is now a legendary event still, so there you go. But yeah, I just wanted to go over a few things as far as the overness of folks to see if I actually hurt things. So, I mean, honestly, it's just easiest to go through. So Big Show, popularity-wise, let's see here. So he's a little bit more over after his big world title win. Did Lesnar get hurt a lot by this? Let's see, your survey says. Ooh, okay. I mean, yeah, I guess I underestimated how over Undertaker wasn't, but I'm sure the game will build him back up fairly quickly. Not the end of the world. Jericho. Okay, Jericho is the same. Christian. Did Christian get hurt by doing the job to test? I mean, a little bit, but they'll probably be rebuilt. Christian York. How much over did you get by winning the tag titles? Ooh, okay. Again, I expect the game to take the belts off him pretty quickly, but you know. Punk, how are you doing, buddy? I mean, again, a little better. Like the game probably still use him as an undercard guy, hopefully, but maybe he'll get the random push. Let's see here. Edge. Did Edge get hurt by losing? Nope, he's the same. Let's see here. Layfield, did you get a lot more over by winning the IC title? A couple points. Can't be hurt by that. Kurt, okay. Kurt, I know you were pretty over. And, okay, I mean, still, yeah, pretty decent. Let's see, Leviathan, did you gain anything from basically kicking? A little bit. That's nice. Let's see here. Randy, okay. Ooh, Randy might actually be a main event guy now. Oh, yeah, a huge, okay. Let's see here. Hall and Steiner. Shane. Did Shawn lose a lot by doing the job? Jericho? Probably not. Nope. Okay, he's actually more over. Shelton. Shelton's about in the same space as Punk, but still, that's at least they're there. Austin's still ungodly over. Of course he is. Let's see here. Did Test get any big? Let's see here. Test. I mean, okay, actually, Test number now should be decently over. Taker beating Lesnar did not help him at all. A point. Ouch. And Triple H. Ooh, that seems like a, yeah. Oh, no, okay, even. So he lost Orton, didn't get hurt at all. Val, actually more over, which is interesting. Vamp is same overness as he was before. And Regal is the same overness he was before. And I know somebody mentioned in the mid-year awards they wanted to have me go after more people for the WWF. So here's the problem with that. If you look at their people, and this might be hard to see, they don't have a ton of people coming up for the rest of the year that are actually like super important. Like there's some people I'm going to go after, but I'm not like going to mention them on screen. Like the first, like, okay. So go to their major stars, like the next group of people aren't really up until basically the end of next year. And, you know, again, I hope to get to that point in the game, but it'll still be interesting to see. And also just as a side note, Austin is making $700,000 a month. Jericho is making $300,000 a month. Just insane amounts of money. And again, you go merch sales compared to what we're doing in the WWF. Austin had 6 million. Michaels did 6 million. Here did 2 million. Edge did 2 million. Fun stuff. But yeah, that's it. Of course, we'll be back to normal for the next video. We'll be moving on to September, and we'll be throwing things back over to the AI to see if they make a whole mess of things, or if they actually, actually book things well, which you never know. You know, they might just send Benjamin and Punk on a long jogging spree, take the titles off of York and Cade on Raw or SmackDown. So we'll just have to see what they actually decide to do. But, if you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like, comment below what you're liking and not liking, and of course, subscribe to the channel for lots of TW 2020 stuff like this. Again, as I have more time, I'm going to try to maybe restart some series, start some new series, just depends on how much time I have with life and everything. But, that's it for now. So talk to you later, and adios. Have a good one.